Did Reze truly love Denji? Yes. Video over. But in all seriousness, I do think that the introduction of Reze is a very good eye opener to the world that Chainsaw Man is going to be, and more specifically, how life is going to be for Denji. And the fact that Reze by the end of the movie is the one that teaches Denji this lesson, at the risk of pushing him away, is amazing to me. So back to my original question, did Reze truly love Denji? I don't think it happened instantly. Like, for example, it didn't happen in the phone booth where they initially first met. I don't even think it first happened when they initially spent the first week in the cafe together. You can raise the question why she didn't kill him during that time, because she also raised those same concerns by the end of the movie where she's confronted by Makima. You could chalk that up to her just being cautious, because even the Typhoon Devil was aware of how many devils that Denji managed to kill over the course of the series so far. But we do know that during that week of Denji just strictly visiting the cafe every single day during lunchtime, it did give Reze the opportunity to know more about Denji and maybe even sympathize with him, and that turned into something more for her, realizing that he came from just as much of a broken childhood as she did. And I do want to touch on the information that Kishibe actually revealed to us at the end of the movie, but I'll probably say that for another video, because that's a video of its own when it comes to Reze's backstory and her childhood, because that was really a good reveal. But back on topic, if Reze loved Denji or not, I think one can argue that you wouldn't try to manipulate and trap and even kill the person that you loved if you truly loved them. But I think the one thing that Reze didn't really account for is how much she would get to know Denji during the time where she basically stalled and retrieving the Chain Devil's heart. I mean, she proceeded to not only allow him to visit her job every single day. This is her real job, by the way. That's not a fake job. She then proceeded to have multiple dates with him. She taught him how to swim. She taught him the concept of freedom through the city mouse versus country mouse fable. She would then take him on yet another date to a festival. Like, a lot of these things are just these aren't things that one would naturally do just to let your guard down. He had his guard down from the moment that she walked into that phone booth. And in Denji's own way, he's a hopeless romantic, and I think she realized that immediately. I think the hardest part about their relationship is trying to figure out where her confliction began, because there were things like time cuts and stuff like that just to condense the time that they spent together, because we didn't see Denji visiting her every single day. And though we saw the core dates, who knows what else he disclosed to her, and confided her with things that he might not have even told, Aki and Power. And on top of all of this, Denji is now experiencing for the first time someone that truly sees him and allows for him and his natural curiosity to be openly explored without there being a catch. Like, even in the early examples with Himeno and also Makima, there was always something that he needed to do in order to be rewarded. Whereas we have Reze, who isn't asking for something in return. She's actually the one initiating, and allowing him and inviting him to choose what they want to do, to choose his interests, instead of someone whispering in his ear where the cheese is. And I'm using that analogy because of the country mouse and city mouse fable. But anyways, it got to the point where Denji wanted to learn and experience everything with Reze. But the thing is, Denji is already a city mouse who's been caught by a cat. And that's something that Reze doesn't even learn until she's told that Makima already has her clutches in him during the car chase scene. And I'll actually read this part because this was interesting. So Denji says, "I don't know why you want to kill me, but I have to pass. I've got Makima." And Reze responds by saying, "Makima? Oh, Denji, you're that witch's pet? Then if you had run away with me, it would have been pointless." Ugh, damn. And that shit is just so interesting to me, because the more you think about it, in this world, they're making it abundantly clear that Makima is known to some capacity to the devils. But us as the viewer, and even Denji as, the protagonist, we are just as much in the dark as he is, with only knowing tidbits of information to push us forward to, getting closer to the mystery that is Makima. And I love the fact that this is how, Fujimoto is showing us that we are just scratching the surface to how dangerous Makima is. But back on topic, Denji is someone who is a hopeless romantic in his own way. He falls in love hard and he falls in love fast because these feelings, these emotions, these sensations that he is getting from Reze isn't something that he was given until now. Even with Makima, there are certain things that he was never even able to experience or explore or even talk to her about because he never felt like he could. Or rather, Makima never gave him a chance to. But Reze was always like an open door policy. There weren't any conditions in order to have access to Reze. And I think that's one of the key reasons why Denji was gravitating towards her so fast. And Denji even recognizes this too when he actually found himself involuntarily going back to the cafe. He even acknowledges it and says, Makima found my heart for me. My heart belongs to Makima, but my body has other ideas. And I think seeing Denji's openness throughout this very short-lived relationship that he and Reze had, I think Reze, allowed herself to also let her guard down, even though her original objective was to secure the Chainsaw Devil's heart. And I do want to read this part, even though a lot of people do take this as kind of like a funny haha joke thing, but this is very important still. So Denji says, everybody's after my chainsaw heart, but what about Denji's heart? Denji's. Does nobody want that? Huh? And then Reze responds by saying, I do. I meant it when I said I like you, Denji. And the thing is, even though Aki honks the horn and says, you're so gullible, don't listen to the enemy, though yes, that might have been a very comedic element, I believed Reze right there. Maybe that makes me naive, but there are so many things that led up to this moment that she probably wouldn't have let happen if this was all strictly business for Reze. She wouldn't have taught him how to swim. She wouldn't have taken him to the festival. She wouldn't have even allowed him to continuously go to her job like clockwork during lunches just to keep her company. All these things, they're not something that you allow someone to do if your intention is to kill them as soon as possible. So when we are finally at the beach scene after their battle is over with and Reze begins to come clean, saying things like she was manipulating him and everything that she did by, for example, the blushes and, the arm gestures and stuff like that, trying to make her seem vulnerable just to let Denji's guard down and to get him to fall in love with her. Though she claimed that she was doing all of this just to get his heart, I think she was saying that in order to push him away. And not only push him away, but also teach him the lesson of you cannot let everybody in. Not everybody is going to want to be in this for you. And in this world, it's showing true that everybody uses Denji. And I think the hard lesson that she wanted him to learn by using her as the foundation is no matter how pretty the face is, people can have ulterior motives that put you in danger. And you cannot be so easily inviting and open and just overall head over heels for anyone that gives you attention, because that can get you killed, Denji. And we see how hard-headed Denji is too, because he's not really learning this lesson. Despite all the things that she was telling him, Denji is still actively trying to get Reze to run away with him. And that's when Reze makes the decision, I need to make sure that he fully just doesn't trust me anymore. And that's when she goes in for the kiss, doesn't kiss him, and snaps his neck instead, leaving him immobile on the beach as she walked away. But the thing is, despite all of that, Denji was still saying, I'm going to go to your cafe and I am going to wait for you at the time that I always meet you at. Meet me there and me and you will run away together. If you show up, that's how I know that you want this just as much as I do. And the interesting thing is, After we learn about Reze's upbringing in Russia, we see her not get on the train, but instead run as fast as she can back to the cafe to meet with Denji. But of course, we know the outcome. And that's that Makima has been watching them this entire time, and that she's not going to let her get any closer to Denji and, derail what she's worked so hard to solidify when it comes to what Makima wants from Denji. And in the end, once she realizes that everything is impossible, she goes back to her original, thought process of why didn't I just take him out when I had the chance back then? Why did I let all of this happen? Because this is something that even Reze wasn't allowed to have, even if she did have these feelings for Denji. And again, I truly believe that she does. I truly believe that she loved him. But in that moment, she allowed herself to have hope. She allowed herself to believe maybe this could work. Maybe we could run away far enough. Maybe we could both be country mice and get away from the city life, get away from the predators, and learn things and experience life together. And that's when reality strikes, of course, and she's never able to continue thinking about what ifs and thinking about this fantasy with Denji because Makima decided enough was enough.